because there's still many companies, especially ones that have a more corporate feel, that feel hesitant to put personality in their brand.
Let's dive into it. But yeah, welcome to the pod, Dom. Appreciate you joining on, and obviously super excited to have you join this month's episode of B2B Outbound. And obviously I've followed you for a long time on LinkedIn. I feel like I've got to know you from your personal brand, but obviously for I guess looking at your history, SDR, AE, you've been in sales. I guess nowadays, I don't know what you want to call yourself, video strategist, content creator, advocate for all things like employee brand, I guess. But for those of you who don't know you or maybe haven't come across you, what's the story, or how did you get here?
Yeah, I mean it's been a long road, I started off in sales, and I still technically am in sales. You're always selling no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say I'm not in sales anymore. I still have to sell myself, right? But no, I started off as an SDR. Became an AE fairly quickly, at least I think I did. Then I went from a corporate setting into like a bare bones startup, again in a seller and marketing role. And then I slowly transitioned more into marketing, where I was building a lot more content specifically for short form, organic, LinkedIn, for my founders, for myself. That's kind of where the whole employee generated content angle came from. And then it got to a point where I really enjoyed making content so much that I said, okay, I want to start a company and do this for other companies and other organizations. And so that's what I do today. I am a creative strategist when it comes to short form content. Mm-hmm. And I specifically love it when we get the actual team of human beings behind a brand in front of the camera, whether that be the founders, the executives, the employees, because it just makes for better marketing and a better brand strategy, in my opinion.
And did you, out of interest, did you start doing brand and video and content in your sales roles? And I guess the question is for salespeople listening today, we'll dive into it later, but did that help, like, back then?
100%, yeah. I always kind of, I've always messed around with video, even from my early days, posting videos on YouTube from me and my buddies playing video games, Call of Duty, and, stuff like that. I've always been in video. I started doing video more for like the, let's call it professional corporate setting, sales and SaaS setting, when I was still a seller, and I was doing things like, posting videos on LinkedIn daily, running a podcast on YouTube, things like that. And it definitely helped us, stand out amongst our competition, especially as a newer startup, going up against behemoths in the space. It really did help us bring a more human element. So that's what I love about it, is like people get to see a side of you and get to know who you are and your personality more than any other type of marketing, in my opinion.
Yeah, look, I think I've been doing sales nearly 20 odd years, and like we always say, people buy from people. It's about trust. It's about familiarity. I'm a big fan of still trying to get face to face if I can, or say belly to belly or whatever. If do business over dinners and meeting people. But it's kind of a natural next step, particularly in this modern world. Like, why wouldn't you get content, get familiarity? I think there's probably some stats out there. The more people see your face and build trust, they get to know you. I mean, do you think, like, candid question or pointed question, I guess, like. Yeah. I don't say everyone's doing it, but everyone's aware of it now and the benefit. Is it almost gone the other way, where it's like everyone's talking about personal brand and everyone wants to be a thought leader, and everyone's posting?
You know what? I agree with you in the sense that a lot more people now are talking about personal brands and human first marketing, and getting their employees or executives in front of the camera. Like, more companies are now doing it than they have before. It's been going in this direction upwards, if you were to look at a graph. I don't think it's at the point yet where it has become saturated. Because there's still many companies, especially ones that have a more corporate feel, that feel hesitant to put personality in their brand. And that is kind of where I would say the advantage is for a lot of companies who are willing to risk it, to put themselves out there. Now, the fun part, at least in my mind, is even if we get to a point where it is super saturated in the B2B software space and everybody's posting, everyone has personal brands, every company has a figurehead, right? The beauty of this is that it's your own personality, right? No one is going to be Chris. No one's going to be Dom, so we all have our own personalities to shine. And so as long as we just continue to be ourselves on camera, no one can replicate that. Your buyers will then be attracted to a specific type of avatar, and you will attract buyers in a specific type of demographic because you are a certain way. People will want to do business with you because, you like F1 and you like to go, take long walks on the beach, or maybe you're like very controversial and you're a conservative and you're a gun nut and people gravitate more towards that, right? Like these are two polar opposite things, right? You're kind of like, you're kind of like adjusting your audience for who you are internally, and then you end up attracting those people.
Yeah, and I guess there's two different strategies, because I guess we're talking about, obviously, thought leadership, personal brand, which you do, I do, I try and do. You do a much better job than me. But and I guess then there's like the what you're talking about just then is the corporate level. A brand decides, as traditional brand content and brand activity. Part of that is the whole leadership team, the whole exec team, the whole employee team should be doing this at company level and generating more. At a company level, it's still personal content, but it's if everyone's doing it at a company level, the company gets well known for it. There's some great examples from this. I think I saw, there's HubSpot and the likes where like some of their CMOs and heads of sales have got hundreds of thousands of connections and whatever else because the whole company's doing it and it's done well. But is there a huge difference between companies investing in personal brand versus individuals doing it on a case by case basis?
I think there's definitely overlap. There's always really going to be overlap, and especially on LinkedIn, because as of right now, LinkedIn company profiles do not get a lot of engagement. There's some outliers that do, but for the general part, they don't. And that's where personal profiles on LinkedIn dominate the feed. And so if you are, let's say, an executive posting content on a consistent basis, and you have, a brand behind you, whether it's your company or whether it's a company you work for, people will start to understand that you are part of that brand. You are that brand. And so people, when they see your face, they think of, the company you work for. Same thing for someone who is a personal brand, right? Maybe they are just an individual seller for a company, but they have a personal brand where they talk about their personality and what they like to do, and they mix who they are into their content. And B, they provide thought leadership, educational, value-led content about, value that their audience would want to take in. So if you're doing that, like either way, the people who scroll LinkedIn are going to see you and be like, okay, I know who you are. I know who you work for. I know what you believe in and the message you're pushing. Over time, it just becomes a bigger and bigger avalanche.
Yeah, and from a selfish point of view, I say selfish, like, is there a competitive advantage in terms of going for a new job role or trying to win a pitch or anything like that by being well known and your face being recognised? Does it help?
1,000%, yeah. I think the only way where it becomes maybe a disadvantage is if you're very loud and have very strong personal beliefs, and then you try to get like another W-2 employment role at a bigger organization that does not necessarily want someone that loud mouth, right? And this is a controversial take, but big companies, take the Salesforces of the world or the HubSpots of the world, they probably don't want to have someone on their team who is like super passionate about one specific thing that could potentially be a risk for them. And I've seen this happen time and time again. But hey, there's plenty of startups in the world who want people like that, right? And I see it time and time again where people who are posting and having a personal brand, and they're not just posting valuable educational content, but they're also posting things that they believe in, and they're either advocates or they're just shit posting and talking about funny things that they enjoy, and companies pick them up because they want that personality. I work for myself, and I love working for myself, but I don't think any fucking company would want to hire me again because of the stuff I post on LinkedIn, right? And that's okay with me because I don't want to ever be an employee again. But yeah, that's my take there.
And I guess on the flip side, as an employee, because again, like we here at Punch, we recruit hundreds of people, and we advocate quite a lot. Like, be active, be talking about sales, be marketing, revenue, lead gen, pipelines, challenges you're doing. But I know some brands or some companies don't encourage or maybe discourage it a little bit. Like, is the one strategy right? One should companies be pushing it and getting their employees to try and proactively talk about the business?
Well, let me actually answer the question to you. Who do you sympathize and relate to more, a human being or a logo?
Yeah, a human being. And again, if I'm going for a job interview, not that I am, but I'm looking at what the team's
Yeah.
saying, what people are posting about, what they're talking about on their LinkedIn,
Yeah.
what's the team culture like. Yes, obviously the
Exactly.
job itself, but the culture,
Yeah,
the
the
employees,
culture,
the
who you
business.
are, especially like in a sales situation, right? Like I would rather do business with somebody who I can, level with on a certain playing field or agree with, or we have similar interests or passions. Like people say that, well, this has been debated forever, right? But like, people will do business with you because they like you. Some people say that's incorrect. Some people say that is correct. I personally would do business with someone over anybody else if I just genuinely enjoy listening to them or talking to them or being part of their network or being friends with them, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is an advantage, in my opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you mentioned, we talked about LinkedIn, we talked about loads of other formats. There's a whole wave of people trying using AI and other tools to help generate content for them and everything else. But
Yeah.
obviously, a big part of your strategy and a big part of your personality is video. Like,
Yeah.
is there any one way or format better than others, and why do you lean towards video versus maybe text or anything else?
Yeah, I think the format definitely depends on your audience, right? Like some audiences enjoy to ingest content in various different ways. I think you should always have different facets of content and have different formats that you go for, right? So whether that be long form video, short form video, long form text, short form text, social media, blog, whatever it may be, right? You should always be doing everything, right? At least a little bit of everything, and then doubling down on the channels that perform really well for your audience. But for video specifically, the reason why I am just passionate and love it so much is because I think of it from that phrase, a picture says 1,000 words, I think, or something like that, right? Well, a video says 1,000,000. In a video, you can see how somebody is by their mannerisms, the way that they speak, how they speak, their tonality, their charisma. And if you are someone who is super passionate and charismatic about a certain topic, people will just gravitate towards you because they just enjoy seeing you and they enjoy talking to you.
Yeah.
And you become like a little micro, influencer in their eyes, right?
Yeah, and I guess I'd argue, given the bulk of our listeners and our industries are in sales, marketing, revenue, leadership, it's all about communication, it's all about trust, it's all about people, and yeah, you can hide behind words, but I'd probably say video is the best way to get that out there. I'd imagine. Is there any? I mean, do you generally see? I know algorithms change time and time again, and what worked last week maybe not work this week. And you mentioned obviously test everything, double down on what's working, but generally is video it's a strong channel, a strong performer.
For specifically what I do, of
Yeah.
course it is. Because I'm selling video to people who want to do more video, right? I think it's different depending on. Well, let's say if we're talking about LinkedIn specifically, I think video is still super valuable. I think the strategy behind it is widely different compared to doing video on YouTube and video on Instagram or TikTok, because A, the audiences are different. B, the type of content that you want to be pushing out there maybe will be easier to be digested versus a different format. So little adjustments here and there, right, help. But overall, video is still super powerful, and especially if you use it alongside other formats too, like long written text posts on LinkedIn, and stuff like that.
And do you? And I'm more curious from my own personal interest now versus you're the expert, but particularly again, most of our audience B2B SaaS technology sales leaders, SDRs, AEs, is that space? Should you be pushing out the same content on all different? The more platforms, the better, or is actually B2B LinkedIn's a place to head? This tactic.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt to post on other platforms if you don't have an audience already, because it's just like it's content for the sake of content. But if you do have an audience and your audience specifically goes to your TikTok for one style of video, right, and they go to your LinkedIn for a different style of content, don't put the content you put on LinkedIn on TikTok if you already have an audience that is following you and enjoys that one format. Yeah.
So do you build out specific, but depending on the channel? You'll put out different content formats on those channels.
Yeah. Like specifically for an example, right, on Instagram, I'm building a following as we speak on Instagram. It's nowhere nearly as big as the one I have on LinkedIn, but it's ramping up right now, and the content that I'm posting on there is honestly like a bit different than the content I post on LinkedIn, right? Like I still do my fair amount of like funny shit posting on LinkedIn. But on Instagram, it's a lot more, I guess you would say, edgier, right? The Instagram is where people go to kind of take a breather for a second, even if maybe they do feel stressed out after an hour of doom scrolling, like
Yeah,
everybody else
okay.
does. But people go on Instagram because they want a break and they want to enjoy something and they want to feel like, they're not supposed to be enjoying this. People go to LinkedIn for educational purposes sometimes. People go to YouTube for
Yeah.
honestly both education and just like, entertainment. So yeah, it just depends on what platform people in your audience wants to find certain content.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And what's the like? For anyone starting out on this journey,
Yeah.
what's the like? Where do you start? I know everyone's talking about you can now get AI to create all your content for you, and you can get
Yeah.
all the 100 ideas and post this on day one, day two. But like to your
Yeah.
point, it should really be about your personality, your brand, what you care about, what
Of
you're
course.
doing day to day. So
Yeah.
so like very simply, where would I start if I didn't know?
I mean, start by speaking your mind. And that sounds super generic, right? But it's the reality that if you are someone who is creating content for salespeople, you're in that niche, right? What's going to perform better? A post that you list the top 10 tips for, cold calling, or a post where you talk about your experience cold calling, your mistakes, and then how you've been, changing, your approach to combat those mistakes. I think one, will do better than the other, right? But you
Yeah,
tell me.
agreed. Yeah, look, at the end of the day, it's the second one. Everyone can find tips and tricks everywhere else, but what do you do
Yeah,
and what's specific to you? What worked? How do you find that? And again, it draws you into their story, their journey on this as
yeah.
well, which I think is a big
What's
thing.
been the best performing post you've put up on LinkedIn recently?
I'm biased. We've had a couple of exciting news events here at Punch. So we had a couple of acquisitions and some
Nice, yeah.
big life stories for me. So actually, interestingly, again, I don't claim to have a big following, but I've been trying to do it consistently and share my thoughts and trying to help people for a while now. And yeah, it definitely has helped. We've won some pitches in the last year because they saw us on LinkedIn, they saw our content, they saw whatever
Yeah.
else, and it helped us win above everyone else. So it definitely works. I think interestingly, the ones that have performed best are the ones sometimes about my personal life. My little boy
Yeah.
got into the West End, and a lot of my friends are on
Yeah.
LinkedIn network, so I just promoted about that,
Yeah.
and that was
That's great.
one of the highest performing content that quarter or whatever else, and it was
Yeah.
nothing to do with work. It was just a life story, a great moment,
Exactly.
and yeah, to your point, it's human.
Yeah. Have you heard anybody talk about how they're angry or annoyed that LinkedIn is turning into Facebook?
Yeah, I do, and I don't want to say I get it, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like I've got some genuine, really good friends that the place that they hang out on, the place I know them from is LinkedIn. So
Yeah.
why wouldn't I
That's
share
great.
my life story on that platform? Because
Exactly.
actually, the people I want to speak to are probably on that platform. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's yeah, it is to your point, it's a personal network, and it crosses the personal versus the business world.
Yeah, yeah. I've had a lot of folks reach out to me after I put out a very personal post, which I don't do that often. If it's just personal, right? I don't really do it that much. Maybe like once a month on LinkedIn. But when I do,
Yeah.
and it has nothing related to work or business, I still have people reaching out to me, being like, "Hey, like the same thing happened to me," or like, I'm so proud to see you doing, this now, or like that
Yeah.
looks so fun, right? So it's just another layer that you can relate to if you are a seller or a marketer trying to sell or market to a specific audience.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I tend not to do it too much, but sometimes it is important to show you're human as well. But I think there's also the other side of that is people try to relate everything to business all the time. So I went to a gig last night, and this is what taught me about sales. Like you just
Yeah,
went to a
yeah.
gig, just enjoy the gig,
Yeah,
and
literally.
suddenly do it. It
I saw
doesn't.
some crazy one. Like my wife cooked me a pasta, and this is what it reminded me about startup founders. And I was like, wait,
Yeah, it's
that makes
just.
no sense.
But they think it's business platform. They should be talking about sales, whatever else. So yeah. What about yourself? Where have you got any high performing content, or where it's impacted new business wins or anything else?
Yeah, honestly, I think the best performing content for me has been this series that I've been running, and this is something that I'm like preaching a lot now, and I'm selling this as one of my offers as well, which is series based content. Content that follows a specific format and a specific narrative, but like things are tweaked and changed. And so I run this series for organic top of funnel, content to just like get views called the AI AI takes over your job or whatever it is. And it basically is just like me pretending to be AI with a bunch of my friends in different scenarios, like AI fires you because you missed work, or AI HR puts you on a PIP, or AI blackmails a CEO. And they've been doing great. They've been racking up 100,000 views,
Wow, cool.
each one, and it's great because it gets me the eyeballs I need, and it gets people talking in the comment section and in my DMs, and then they'll see an educational post of mine, like more of like a middle of funnel, right, or a bottom of funnel. And they're like, oh, he does this. Maybe I should reach out to him to use his service, right? Or even on a sales call, they'll just be like, oh, I saw the AI post, right? Like that was hilarious.
Yeah.
So that's what's been working for me right now.
That's super interesting that you even go to the level of planet from a series and build out. Do you tend to bucket content as this is obviously educational, this is what I really want to drive content to, but actually just to get eyeballs on, I need to do a different type of content just to drive volume?
Yeah. I mean, it's a funnel like everything, right? Like, you're going to cold call 200 people in a day, and you'll probably book hopefully like 4 to 5 meetings, right? If you have a good connect rate.
That's a good day.
That's a great thing, right?
Nowadays,
but it's the same thing with any type of social media content, right? Like I create videos or written posts on LinkedIn to get a lot of eyeballs, and maybe they have nothing to do with what I do at all, right? They're just relatable and easily to be shared. And then the next day I post something that is more educational, of providing value to the people I want to do business with. And the next day I post a direct ad being like, hey, this is a testimonial from one of my clients, right? And I'm just trying to get that conversion funnel.
Yeah, super interesting. It's a good way to think about it. I think, again, a lot of people go into this just say, I know I should do it, I know I should do it consistently. They don't really have a strategy behind it or a strategy in place to do it well and do it proper. So yeah, it's interesting to start thinking about it a different way. And to your point, actually putting some science, metrics, tracking it, what posts are performing well, let's double down on that format, let's double down on that channel. So it's definitely, even for me, something that, again, it's also, not everyone has the time to do it day in, day out, and that's why they need people like you to help advise on strategy and stuff as well. But what's next for you in the business? What's the plan for the year, and where you hoping to take it?
Yeah. I mean, it's a good question. It's a loaded question. There's a lot going on right now.
Let's see what happens.
Like I alluded to before, like I'm starting to provide this new service, this series-based content where like I will create a concept for a brand and then we'll run it for 5 to 6 episodes. And so I'm starting to build out the packaging for that right now, and because of that I have to redo the website, and so it's a lot of continuous changing and remarketing and rebranding myself to the point where it gets to where I want it to be, and then I probably want to do something else and add a different package or different service to it. Then I have to keep updating, and it's just a constant cycle. But just trying to make people happy and create content that I feel proud of.
No, I love it. Like I said, we've got a lot of mutual friends, a lot of mutual connections, but haven't necessarily got time to spend a lot of time together. But I followed your content for a long time. Obviously, to your point, the brand's working because we've connected over the years and kind of just seen you. So again, it feels like I know you just from the network we're in, which is super cool, and that's obviously the power of the brand. So appreciate you jumping on. Obviously, appreciate you sharing your thoughts and insight into the power of the brand. If you were to leave any tips or tricks to anyone that kind of looking to get into this, and we'll do some quick fire questions before we log off. But what's one piece of advice you'll give someone kind of who wants to start using content or start getting into this?
Yeah, I mean it's. Whenever anyone asks me like for that one piece of advice, it's always the same. It's just do it. Just post today, right? Post something. It's gonna get no likes. Probably one of your old friends from college, university is gonna reach out to you and be like, "What are you doing? Right? Why are you posting this?" You may feel embarrassed, but who cares? Just put it out there and start the cycle to get consistent. That's all.
And I think that's. I mean, interestingly, I've got a group of close friends, but I even remember back when I started doing it, they started to. Oh, you're posting on LinkedIn now. You're like, and actually, there is that level of embarrassment that you can just get through and say, I'm going to be doing this now. And after a while, you realise it sticks, it pays it. But it does take that time. And obviously, Dom, where do you want people to, anyone want to reach out, find this interesting, want to hit you up from strategy or some advice around content? Where can people reach you?
Yeah, just LinkedIn DM me or book a time on my LinkedIn. My website's going through a whole rehaul right now, so it's not even active. It's not even up at the moment. Maybe by the time this gets published,
Yeah,
it'll be up. Who
we'll pop
knows?
it in the show notes anyway, and we'll pop in your contact details if that's all right, and
Yeah.
obviously point them to your content on all formats. But massively appreciate you jumping on. And before we jump off, we always ask our guests a couple of rapid fire, quick fire
Yeah.
questions just
Let's do
around
it.
the topic. So, what's the fastest way to make content forgettable?
Forgettable.
Yeah, bad content.
Speaking in a very monotone voice like this and not really having any specific thing to say, you're just saying things to say things. You have no real take. You have no
Interesting.
real personality or anything you want to say. You're just looking at the camera and talking.
That's interesting.
Did
And
you
what's
remember
the?
what I said?
Yeah,
So-
I glazed over for a little bit. I glazed over.
Yeah.
It might be the same answer. But what's the one mistake most people make on video?
Actually, I don't think I don't think that's the mistake people make. I think that the main mistake is that they just don't do it. Like they don't want to try it because they have the fear of failing. They have the fear of embarrassment. They have the fear that maybe they don't have the strategy right. And that's okay. Like that's how everybody starts. So who cares about a strategy? Who cares if you're gonna be embarrassed? Just like put something out there and see what happens over time, and you'll see over time. Constant iteration, you're going to get better and better. Just look at my stuff from 3 years ago. It sucked compared to what I do now, right? So just like continuously do it.
So on that point, consistency or quality?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I would say in the beginning, if it's your first time creating any type of video content or organic social media content, specifically on LinkedIn, just bump out quantity as much as possible and be consistent with it. So that means you're posting 5 times a week, right? Or you're posting 4 times a week. Doesn't matter, right? Just keep the consistency high, keep the quantity high. You will then have so many at bats that you learn over time, A, what you like doing and how you like to deliver it, and B, what your audience likes and how your audience likes to receive it. And now you can start talking about quality, post less and post more high quality stuff for your audience.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think that's a great tip. And it might tie into the last one then. But what's that one signal, one thing you're tracking to see if this is actually working? Is it subscribers or impressions or one business? Like what's that metric we should be looking for?
For me, it's always mentions. I just want to get on a customer call or a sales call and have somebody say, I saw that video you made, right? And even if it's a video from like 3 months ago or it's a video I posted yesterday, I don't care. As long as they say, hey, I saw this about you. That makes me know that it was memorable enough for them to say that to me, and that is a touch in the buying journey right there.
Yeah, that's cool. That's great. I didn't think about that one. We also sometimes looking at hard metrics, clicks, impressions, opens, whatever else. Actually, just someone really remembering a video and making a point stand out and mention it.
It's a harder thing to track, and that's why like marketing attribution it sucks. Especially when it comes to social media because there's so many things that are going out, and you don't know if people are interacting or seeing with everything. But if there's one thing that's memorable to them, and they tell you that on a sales call or they tell you that through a message, it's working.
Yeah, and it's really hard. I think this is a problem of all lead gen in general. It's that moment in time. So I can ask someone, how to come across Punch, and I booked a link for your website. The reality is they saw a piece of content 2 years ago at an event, but the marketing automation says, it's the inbound form they've completed on your website, and that's a moment in time. So yeah, it's tough to do. But yeah, look, massively appreciate it, Dom. Appreciate your time, and obviously thanks for joining us today. I'll make sure in the show notes we put some content, link to your bits and pieces. But like I said, look forward to catching up soon.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, appreciate it. And you.